Hello fourth graders and welcome to another English video lesson. My name is Irena and I will be your teacher for the day. With today's lesson we are opening a new topic. For the next few weeks we will be talking about philosophy. The title of the lesson today is What Can the Greek Crew Teach Us? Here are the expected outcomes of today's lesson. Hopefully, once you have completed all the tasks, you will have been able to talk about different philosophical approaches and to report what had been said using different reporting verbs. Just like in every video lesson, you will need some things which you should prepare in advance. Make sure that you have something to write with and something to write on. Hopefully, those will be a textbook and a notebook in English. Make sure that you have a tablet or a computer with internet access ready at hand. And remember that you can always pause or replay the video at any time. You should go through the lesson at your own pace. So, let's go. Do you recognize this word? Are you familiar with these letters? Do you know which alphabet they come from? If you recognize the word, do you know which words it is made of? What do those words mean? What are the first associations that come to mind when you see it or when you hear it? Are you familiar with the pejorative meaning of this word? Think about it for a second. And then pause the video and write your ideas down. Here are some of potential answers. Philosophy is unlike any other field. It is unique, both in its methods and in the nature and breadth of its subject matter. Philosophy pursues questions in every dimension of human life, and its techniques apply to problems in any field of study or endeavor. No brief definition expresses the richness and variety of philosophy. It may be described in many ways. It is a reasoned pursuit of fundamental truths. It is a quest for understanding. It is a study of principles of conduct. It seeks to establish standards of evidence, to provide rational methods of resolving conflicts, and to create techniques for evaluating ideas and arguments. Philosophy develops the capacity to see the world from the perspective of other individuals and of other cultures. It enhances one's ability to perceive the relationships among the various fields of study, and it deepens one's sense of the meaning and variety of human experience. As you can see, philosophy is many things, and philosophy is the basis for everything. But let's take one step at a time. Let's have a look at these questions. What does philosophy study? Which philosopher is considered the father of philosophy? Which scientific methods does philosophy include? What are some of the typical philosophical questions? How does philosophy differ from previous ways of thinking? And which country is the homeland of Western philosophy? Do you think you can answer any of these questions based on the things you have learned at school in your philosophy class? Think about it for a moment and then write your answers down. Follow this link or use the QR code that will take you to the video, which will help you answer the questions we have just seen. While watching the video, make notes and write your answers down. Now, let's see if you were right. As you can see on the screen, and just like you have heard in the video, You know that philosophy is the study of general and fundamental questions about the cosmos, about knowledge and science, about existence, values, reason, mind, and language. The father of philosophy is the Greek philosopher Thales, who lived 600 years before Christ in Miletus. Philosophical methods include questioning, critical discussion, rational argument, and systematic presentations. Some typical philosophical questions are: what is the best way to live our lives? Or is it better to be just, even if one can get away with being unjust? And for the fifth question, for the first time in history, people try to explain things through reasoning and calculations rather than the will of the gods. That is the way that philosophy differs from previous thinking. And finally, as you all know, and as the title of our lesson suggests, the homeland of Western philosophy is ancient Greece. So, let's move on. Think about what you have seen in the video and what you have learned in class. Which ideas from these Greek philosophers would you single out as the most important? Think about it and try to put them down, write them down in just one sentence. Pause the video and do the task. Here are some possible answers. For example, you can say that Pythagoras claimed that real life and practical aspects of philosophy are to be in perfect harmony, or that our life has no value if not moral, according to Socrates. Perhaps you wrote down that Plato said that the allegory of the cave describes our world, or that Aristotle believed that knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And for example, that Thales said that the necessity is the stronger of things, for it rules everything. So, here are some of the key messages. Now, imagine that you are expected to explain them to somebody else. What would you do? Which structures would you use? How would you put those messages into sentences? Think about it and write your answers. Start with these sentence beginnings. And here are some potential answers. Pythagoras said that real life and practical aspects of philosophy were to be in perfect harmony. Socrates believed that our life had no value if not moral. Plato claimed that the allegory of the cave described our world. Aristotle wrote that knowing yourself was the beginning of all wisdom. And Thales stated that necessity was the strongest of things, for it ruled everything. What can you see? What is this all about? What happened here? What are we talking about? As you all know, as you all probably remember, here we are talking about reported speech. Let's go through some of the points which we need to consider to remind ourselves of what we need to do. When we talk about what somebody else has said, we can use direct speech when we have the quotes and when we repeat the exact words that somebody said or wrote. But we can also use indirect speech when we can actually retell what somebody has said. There are certain changes which need to be done when we use indirect speech, which include the back shift and the change of tenses if we use the verb in the past. And we need to make changes of pronouns, demonstratives and adverbs of time and place depending on the content of the sentence. Also, we should use the variety of reporting verbs to make our sentences sound as interesting and as correct as possible. We don't always want to say he said, she said, they talk to us, they talk to them. There is a number of verbs which we can use to introduce indirect speech. For example, describe, show, reveal, moot, imply, postulate, deny, negate, reject, challenge, etc. Here you can see some of them. So, let's practice. Here are some of the sentences which are connected to famous Greek philosophers. Put these sentences into indirect speech. Try to use as many reporting verbs as you can. If necessary, pause the video or actually go back a few minutes and then find the list of reporting verbs so that you have a number of different ideas. So, let's compare and check your answers. Aristotle believed that happiness was the highest good. Here we needed to change the verb and put it into past simple. Socrates claimed that unexamined life was not worth living. The same thing happened. Heraclitus stated that one couldn't step twice in the same river. Here we have the change of the modal verb. Aristotle pointed out that we were what we repeatedly did and that excellence was not an act but a habit. Plato theorized that man was wisest who, like Socrates, realized that his wisdom was worthless. Socrates asserted that the only thing he knew was that he knew nothing. So, once again, make sure that you use backshift if the reporting verb is in past tense, and that you change all the pronouns, demonstratives, and adverbs of place and time if it is necessary to do so. As you can see, you can use different reporting verbs to make your sentences more interesting. And let's move on to the next activity. I, a philosopher. Think about everything you have learned about different philosophers and their theories today. And think about everything that you have learned in your philosophy class. Which questions and which views of life do you find the most intriguing? Jot down a few notes and create your own philosophical personality. Prepare several statements that express your philosophy and say which questions you would like to find the answers to. Make sure that you speak for about 2 or 3 minutes and then share your answers with your classmates. You can use some kind of a digital platform or you can just talk to each other on the phone or in a video call. And finally, to the last activity for the day. My friend, a philosopher. If you have completed the previous task, you have listened to your friends talking about their philosophical views. Now, report what they have said in written form. Use different reporting verbs. Try to be as interesting but also as accurate as possible. And finally, before we say goodbye, let's see if we can do a quick recap to see how you did. Use these questions for self-assessment. Make sure that you can explain what philosophy is and that you can say a few things about the best-known Greek philosophers. You should be able to give examples of typical philosophical questions, and you should be able to report what somebody else had said. While doing that, you should be able to use different reporting verbs correctly. And this is it for the day. I hope that you have enjoyed the lesson and that you will join us to continue exploring the topic of philosophy. Until next time, take care.